Yo, what's up guys? Ethan here back with another video, and in today's episode, we're getting back to my NFL mock drafts. Just a few disclaimers. I'm sorry I haven't been uploading, number one, on both of my channels. Number two, next video, most likely, maybe, I'm not even sure, tomorrow, will either be a top college football rivalries video, which I will bring back eventually, or the top 15 games of the college football season. As you can tell by the thumbnail, and the thumbnail's actually on the screen right now, we're doing my 2020 NFL mock draft, and personally, this type of content blew up my channel last year, and I'm still going to be doing them because it is college football related. And talking about college football, it's really funny because right now, the Reese's Senior Bowl is literally just starting where I live, so just getting that out of the way. So, let's get straight into my 2020 mock draft. There is some surprises, and I'm going to give my explanation on every pick, so let's get straight into it. So, as you know, here's the top 9 picks. In my mock drafts, I do not have any trades, just to get a disclaimer out of the way. And real quick, do you like these graphics? I think they're pretty good. And yeah, so with the first overall pick, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Joe Burrow, quarterback from LSU. Let me adjust my mic real quick. I think this is a no-brainer at this point. Joe Burrow probably led a top 5 college football team of all time to a national championship undefeated. And even though LSU didn't have one of the top defenses, he was the player who led this team. This offense was phenomenal. I think the Panthers are going to do pretty good with Joe Brady, by the way. The Bengals they're trying to move out of the Andy Dalton era, and I think it's pretty obvious with the first overall pick, they're going to be going towards Joe Burrow, and I agree. With the second overall pick, I have the Redskins selecting Chase Young, edge rusher from Ohio State. Even though Joe Burrow is the first overall selection, Chase Young is probably the best talent player in this draft. And maybe besides Joe Burrow, the safest pick in this draft. Well, I'm not saying he's going to be a top player already like Nick Bosa has been this year, but I do think Chase Young is going to be a big help for this Redskins defense. And also last year, the Redskins drafted two Ohio State players. The first round pick in Dwayne Haskins and third round pick in Terry McLaurin. So you're going to have a third Ohio State player, and all three of them have chemistry with each other because they played last season. I think this is a no-brainer pick by the Redskins. Even though you have some bigger needs for like receiver and etc., you have to get the best player on the board and then go towards your needs for the rest of the draft. With the third overall pick, I have the Detroit Lions going with Jeffrey Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State. For the Lions, unless you get a QB, I think guaranteed it's going to be a defensive pick right here. And for me, it's a toss-up between Derek Brown and Jeffrey Okudah. I'm only going with Jeffrey Okudah because he's probably the closest, besides that Derek Stingley, he's probably going to be the closest thing to a top cornerback in this league, like Jalen Ramsey type player. Pairing him up with Darius Slay, which is already one of the best corners in the league, this could be a dynamic duo, and you may not even want to be against them. So I have Jeffrey Okudah going to the Lions. With the fourth overall pick, I have the Giants going with Andrew Thomas. And I spelled his name wrong. Of course I did. I always spell someone's name wrong. I am sorry. Andrew Thomas, offensive lineman from Georgia. For the Giants, you have a few needs. I can also see him going with Isaiah Simmons right here. But, my bad. I do think O-line is the biggest need on this Giants team. And with basically most of your future being on the offensive side with Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, you need to get an O-line. Will Hernandez and Kevin Zeitler are like they're good, But everyone else is just garbage. Let's just get out of the way. Getting a really good player in Andrew Thomas on that line, it's going to build the offense up. And Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones could have a bigger year. And yeah. So here's where we start to shake things around. With the 5th overall pick, I have the Dolphins selecting Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback from Alabama. This is a toss-up again. I do think the Dolphins are going to select Tua. Tua is a better player than Justin Herbert, in my opinion. But Tua has the injury prone on his side. Justin Herbert doesn't. I think for the Dolphins is, even though there's going to be some players in the draft that have injuries, they're going to be going straight up for all talent. That's how I think they're going to be approaching the draft this year. Just get talent in the positions you need, not like scheme fit or anything. And I think Tua is the best remaining QB, and Ryan Fitzpatrick can mentor Tua, even though Tua is already pretty smart. I think this is going to be a good pick, and yeah. So with the 6th overall pick, I have the Chargers selecting Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. And yes, I know O-line is a huge need for this Chargers team. But basically, I really don't think you need to select defense until like the 3rd round. You need to focus on your offense. It's pretty obvious the Chargers are trying to get rid of or trying to move on from Phillip Rivers this offseason. And drafting a QB in Justin Herbert could be the thing, and a new face of this Chargers team going into LA in that new stadium. Justin Herbert, he's just a weird player. He can go in the top 5. I have him at 6. But some mock drafts I see, early 2nd, I really don't think he's going to go past the Colts or the Bucks, in my personal opinion. And I think the Chargers are probably the most... It's probably the team he would fit with the best, in my opinion. And I think this is going to be a really good pick for the Chargers. With the 7th overall pick, I have the Panthers selecting Derek Brown, defensive lineman, Auburn. The Panthers, they just start off good and haven't excelled at the second half of the season. And that's how it's been for I don't know how long after that Super Bowl loss to the Broncos. But not talking about that, they have a new coaching and I think they're going to be good. And yes, that's coming from a Falcons fan. They struggled with interior D-line this year. And Derek Brown, without a doubt, is the best defensive lineman in this draft besides Chase Young. And I think it's going to be a really good fit with this Panthers team. Jeez, I'm running out of breath. My bad. With the 8th overall pick, I have the Cardinals selecting Jedrick Willis, offensive lineman, Alabama. With this Cardinals team, you have your future in Kyler Murray. But you don't have any receivers by any chance. They do have receivers, my bad. They really don't have an offensive line, let's just say that. And I think the Cardinals, they need every position in the O-line. So I think they're going to go with the best offensive lineman that's still on the board. If the Giants take a player like Isaiah Simmons, I personally think Andrew Thomas will fall, and Andrew Thomas will go to Arizona. I think Arizona is just going to plain out go for an offensive line with their 1st overall pick, and the best talent-wise there is, that's who they're going to select, and right now I think it's Jedrick Willis. And with the 9th overall pick, I have the Jaguars selecting Isaiah Simmons, linebacker / safety from Clemson. I think that he's going to be a really big player. I think during the combine, he's going to skyrocket. Right now, he's from 10 to 20. But after the combine, I think he's going to be... I think he can go number 3 to the Lions. And the lowest he can go is probably to the Jets, around that area. I think he's going to be a really phenomenal player. Because not only can he play linebacker or safety... Besides the inside D-line, he can basically play anywhere on the football field. And I think the Jaguars need that versatility. Even though people are saying receivers, DJ Chark had a phenomenal year last year. D.D. Westbrook is good. You do need a tight end, but there's really no worthy tight end names until probably early to mid-second round. So I think they're going to take defense again in the 1st round, and it's going to be Isaiah Simmons. So with the 10th overall pick, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Tristan Wirfs, offensive lineman from Iowa. Browns. I think everyone's going to say the most disappointing team in the NFL this year. And I cannot agree with them. They are 100% correct. This team has not performed well, and it's mainly because of the offensive line and Odell. I'm not going to talk about Odell now, though, but this O-line really was underperforming this year for this Browns team, and maybe it's because they traded Kevin Zeitler, and I forget the other dude's name from Nevada. But I think this Browns team is going to help Baker Mayfield bring up more protection, and it's going to be a similar situation to what I think the Cardinals are going to do. They're going to go after an O-line, and the best player on the board is who they're going to select. I could see them going with a Mekhi Becton right here, but personally I think Tristan Wirfs is a better player overall. With the 11th overall pick, I have the New York Jets selecting Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver from Alabama. And yes, in my personal opinion, it was either a 3-player race between him, CeeDee Lamb, and Mekhi Becton for this 11th overall pick. This Jets O-line is probably a top 5 worst in the NFL, let's be honest. But Robbie Anderson's going to be a free agent this year. And who's going to be your best receiver? Jamison Crowder? I see Jamison Crowder as a second or third option as a receiver. But as a number 1 option, that receiving core is not going to be good at all next season for the Jets. And even though this receiver core is super good, and you could take a Mekhi Becton right here, I think the Jets are going to take Jerry Jeudy, and it's a better overall pick because Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion, is going to be the closest thing to Julio Jones that you have. And look at Julio. Besides Michael Thomas, second best receiver in the league, in my opinion. So I think this is a good pick by the Jets. With the 12th overall pick, the Oakland Raiders select CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma. I think it literally depends who the Jets take for this Raiders. My bad. I think it depends on who the Jets take with this pick. If the Jets take Jerry Jeudy or an offensive lineman, I think the Raiders are going to select CeeDee Lamb. But if the Jets select CeeDee Lamb, I think they're going Jerry Jeudy. These two, Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb, are easily the top 2 best receivers in the stacked wide receiver class. And it really can be a flip-flop for either of them. I can see CeeDee going to New York and Jerry to the Raiders, but I think Jerry Jeudy goes to New York and CeeDee Lamb goes to the Raiders. And thinking about it, CeeDee Lamb is more of a deep threat, and I think that's going to be a receiver what the Raiders need, because Hunter Renfrow is going to be a pretty good receiver for them, and he's more of a slot guy because of his height. And CeeDee Lamb is going to be that deep threat that Derek Carr needs. With the 13th overall pick, we have our first surprise in the draft. I have the Indianapolis Colts selecting Jordan Love, quarterback from Utah State. I think the Colts are going to go in a rebuilding phase after Andrew Luck's retirement and what happened this year. I think they're going to start with a QB. Even though you paid Jacoby Brissett all this money last year, I think you're going to use Jacoby Brissett to train Jordan Love for this year. And then you're gonna get Jacoby Brissett gone, and Jordan Love will be the starting QB. I think Jacoby Brissett will start next year, but then Jordan Love is it's gonna be like a Patrick Mahomes situation, I think. And what the Chiefs did with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes, I think it's gonna be kind of a similar situation for the Colts. And Jordan Love, he's gonna be a good QB, but at this point, I can see this is the highest I think he will go to the Colts. I really don't see the Chargers selecting him or any other team. So I think this is a good pick for the Colts. With the 14th overall pick, I have the Buccaneers selecting Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman from South Carolina. If you never heard of this guy's story, it's phenomenal. He was basically homeless, and then he got to South Carolina, and he's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL. It's just an amazing story. I really don't know that much about him because I really don't like South Carolina. But just reading off what scouts said and looking at the stats, I think the Bucs is going to be a good situation. I personally think the Bucs are going to keep Jameis Winston this year and wait until next year, as next year's QB class is stacked with Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, Jamie Newman, etc. But and they also really don't have a good interior defensive line. Shaq Barrett, a huge surprise in the NFL this year. And now if you get interior, it would be good. I really don't think they're going to go secondary for the corners. I can see it maybe the second round, but in the first round, I don't think it's going to happen. So I think Javon Kinlaw gets selected here by the Bucs. With the 15th overall pick, I have Henry Ruggs, wide receiver from Alabama, going to the Broncos. Broncos, another team that needs O-line. I think the Broncos are kind of in a similar situation like the Jets. You need O-line, but that receiving core is not as good. But the thing about the Broncos is you just need speed. You have Courtland Sutton, who's going to make the Pro Bowl this year. A huge surprise from that Denver Broncos team. And he is a physical receiver. Henry Ruggs is that slot guy who's super fast, and I think he's going to have a pretty good combine. And I do think that he's going to actually be a really good fit with this Broncos offense and what they're trying to do with Drew Lock. So I have him going to the Broncos. With the 16th overall pick, I have the Falcons selecting A.J. Epineza, edge rusher from Iowa. I'm a Falcons fan, and personally, this year I really didn't like A.J. Epineza, I'll be honest. But towards the end of the year, I really liked his game. I think it's pretty obvious the Falcons are going defense with this first overall pick. If they go offense, oh my gosh, that would be stupid. I'll be honest. But D-line, they cannot stop the run. And what the Falcons done in the past with drafting edge is they're getting super fast and athletic players with Vic Beasley and Takk McKinley. A.J. Epineza is not, he's just powerful and gets to the QB. I think this is going to be the edge rusher that's really going to help the Falcons out. He's not that super athletic type dude like Vic Beasley. He's going to get released this year, and he was a first-round pick a few years ago. Takk McKinley, better than Vic Beasley, obviously, but he's still not as good. I think A.J. Epineza is going to be perfect for this Falcons defense. And that's why I have the Falcons selecting him. With the 17th overall pick, I have the Cowboys selecting Grant Delpit, safety from LSU. I really look for the Cowboys. You're not going to sign Byron Jones. I can see a cornerback going here. But on how your safeties played this year, I think the safeties are a little bit of a bigger need than the cornerbacks. But I think I think the Cowboys are going to go heavy on secondary in the draft, unlike free agency, because they're not going to have money. But I think Grant Delpit is the best safety in this class, and since Dallas needs a safety, I have him going to Dallas. And with the 18th overall pick, I have the Dolphins, which this was the Steelers' pick, if I'm not mistaken. I have them selecting Mekhi Becton, offensive line from Louisville. Mekhi Becton is like 6'8", huge, like 350. He's not the most agile, but he is huge and powerful. I think the Dolphins are just gonna go all offense in the first round, as they do have 3 picks. And I think a big O lineman is exactly what Tua would need in this offense. So I have Mekhi Becton going to the Dolphins. And with the 19th overall pick, I have the Oakland Raiders selecting Christian Fulton, cornerback from LSU. And yes, I know the Raiders, like, their secondary is iffy. He's easily the best cornerback in this draft. He's one of the best press coverage cornerbacks in this draft. My bad. And the Raiders, the cornerbacks is probably one of their biggest needs. Even though Trevon Mullen had a pretty decent rookie year, he's going to have a lot of potential. Him and Fulton is going to be a huge duo. Well, an underrated and young duo, I'd say. And I think he would be a perfect fit with this Raiders team. With the 20th overall pick, another surprise, I have the Jaguars selecting Jeff Glandy, cornerback from TCU. Jaguars secondary not really the best after trading Jalen Ramsey. I'm fully expecting they're drafting a cornerback in the first round, and I think Jeff Glandy's going to be in a similar situation like Darnell Savage was last year. Darnell Savage was an early to mid third round pick last year, and then after the combine, he became early to mid second round pick, and then a few days after the draft, he started to go up, and he got selected, I want to say 22nd by the Packers. I think this is going to be a similar situation. Jeff Glandy currently is probably, I want to say, a mid to early second round pick. I think he's going to rise up a little bit, and I think he would be a perfect fit with the Jaguars defense. And yeah, with the 21st overall pick, I have the Eagles selecting Laviska Shenault, wide receiver from Colorado. Another toss-up between receivers. It was a toss-up between him and T. Higgins. I do think, even though the Eagles want youth and speed, and that's what T. Higgins is, Laviska Shenault is a way better catcher. I watched the Nebraska game, and he was phenomenal. This kid is underrated. I think my personal opinion, I think he's the third best wide receiver in this draft. I think he would have a better career than Henry Ruggs, but he got selected. I think he would be the third best receiver in this draft behind Judy and Lamb. But, my bad. I think it would be a pretty good fit with the Eagles. And yeah, with the 22nd overall pick, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting T. Higgins, wide receiver, Clemson. Like I said with the Laviska Shenault, it's good. I think they're gonna. It could flip flop, but I think it's gonna be one of these two teams selecting them. T. Higgins, he has some catching a little bit of issues, but personally, he has tons of potential. He was probably the best receiver at Clemson, if not it was Justin Ross, who's going to be in next year's draft, I want to say. But, T. Higgins, I think it would be a good fit with the Bills. I think without a doubt they're going to get a receiver. I think for the Bills, they're just going to go with the best talent receiver there is. Because besides John Brown and Cole Beasley are, they're good third string receivers, but when they're your first and second options, that's really not a good receiving core, and I think they're going to get a nice young receiver in T. Higgins. With the 23rd pick, I have the Patriots selecting Bryson Hopkins, tight end from Purdue. This is how it is for the past few years. Even though the receivers for New England, they just drafted N'Keal Harry last year. And the Patriots are that team who, in the first round, they just go with the scheme fit guy who they want. They don't go talent-wise. They just go for the scheme fit. That's how the Patriots been for the past few years. And N'Keal Harry really didn't play last year. Your first-round pick wide receiver last year. I think he's going to be good. I liked N'Keal Harry in college. I think he's going to do pretty good for the Patriots. And the Patriots just don't have a tight end. Ben Watson, he retired, I'm pretty sure. And I think they just go out and get the tight end. And Bryson Hopkins is the best tight end in this draft. He's basically a receiver, a super tall receiver. And yeah. With the 24th overall pick, I have the Saints selecting Jalen Reagor, wide receiver from TCU. I'm not sure if I said his name right, by the way. I'm sorry if I didn't. But, the Saints need another receiver. You have the best receiver in the NFL, Michael Thomas. But besides that, you really don't have any other options for Drew Brees or Teddy Bridgewater, depending on who you sign or whatever. I think Jalen Reagor, he is a deep and super fast player. I think he's going to have a pretty good combine. He's going to climb up on a few teams' draft boards. And I think he would be a really good fit with this Saints offense. You're going to have Michael Thomas, that route running. Michael Thomas can do it all. And then you're going to have a deep threat in Jalen Reagor. I think that would be a really good fit for whoever QB it is for next year for those Saints. With the 25th overall pick, I have the Vikings selecting Trevon Diggs, cornerback from Alabama. In my personal opinion, if he's still there, I think the Vikings are really just going to take him. Because even though they need a cornerback, just the storyline, Trevon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. his younger brother is Trevon Diggs. Just having two brothers on the same team is really cool. But besides, not talking about Stephon Diggs, one of the best cornerbacks in the draft here. Vikings secondary, we know it really wasn't the best last year. It looks like they're going to be moving on from Xavier Rhodes. And who else better to put in his position than your star wide receiver's brother, who is a first-round talent, in Trevon Diggs. I think this is going to be a perfect fit, and it's going to be a great locker room. It's going to be great chemistry for this team, in my opinion. And if it's Trevon Diggs, it's not Stephon Diggs' brother. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get roasted. But no matter what, I think they're going to select him. 26 overall pick. This was actually kind of a hard one for the Dolphins. I have them selecting DeAndre Swift, running back from Georgia. I can see J.K. Dobbins getting selected here. He's more of a pass catcher, and maybe that's what the Dolphins need with Tua and your new lineman and Mekhi Becton. But I do think they're just going to get a hardcore running back, because you just need a running back. Because your leading rusher last year was in like a 37-year-old QB who's not known for running. Like, it's crazy. But I think DeAndre Swift would actually be really good in Miami. He's going to be a 3-down back, I would think. And just look at Georgia's success with running backs. You have Nick Chubb on the Browns, Todd Gurley, Sony Michel. They've been pretty good. I think DeAndre Swift fits pretty good in Miami. And I think this is going to be a steal at number 27. I have the Seahawks selecting Kayvon Chaisson, edge rusher from LSU. I'm surprised he fell this low, if I'm being honest. Like, when I was doing, like, the draft thing, I was like, geez, this dude fell a lot. I think he's going to be really good, even though Seattle needs, like, O-line, kind of. They go, like, O-line every year. And last year, they just selected L.J. Collier. Like, that was a terrible pick, I think. And then also having him pair up with Javion. I can't speak today. You know who I'm talking about, Clowney. That would be amazing edge rushers, and that's going to be lethal for your defensive line. And I could see another cornerback getting selected here, because besides Shaquille Griffin, you really don't have a cornerback that's locked down. But I do think they're going to go with Chaisson right here, and he goes to Seattle. And for the rest of these picks, mostly, I just went off to like what the team really needs and their best position, the best player at that position, in my personal opinion. So with the 28th overall pick, I have the Ravens selecting Yetur Gross-Matos, edge rusher from Penn State. He's a guy who he has all the potential in the world, probably most out of every edge rusher in the draft, maybe. But he's going to need some time, and with the Ravens and how they did this year, I think they're going to be a team that's going to be able to give this guy time. And it's also a need for the Ravens, so I think he would actually be... He's not going to be an immediate impact, in my personal opinion, but for the long run, he could be a pretty big piece for a pretty good team. With the 29th overall pick, I have the Titans selecting Curtis Weaver, edge rusher from Boise State. Jeez, I have the hiccups, darn it. I could be wrong, but he was second in sacks behind Trace Young. I could be wrong, but I think he's actually a really underrated player. I don't know why he's going down on so many big boards, because going like in the middle of the college football season, he was projected to go mid to late first round, and now he's like early to mid second round, which I don't really understand. I think he's gonna be like, there's so many good edge rushers in the draft, and he's just gonna be a player that just goes under the boards, in my opinion. I think he's gonna be a really good fit. And Tennessee needs an edge rusher. I think it would actually be a pretty good player on this team. With the 30th overall pick, I have the Packers selecting Justin Jefferson, wide receiver from LSU. And man, I think this kid would be an amazing fit for this Packers team. You have him and Devontae Adams. That would be a huge upgrade to Devontae Adams and some unknown. I know Alan Lazard, and that's basically it. Aaron Rodgers just needs more more receivers who can catch the ball. And what we saw with Justin Jefferson last year at LSU, it's just amazing. In my personal opinion, if he does not go at 30, I think Jefferson goes into the second round and he gets selected by the Bengals. So Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson, that would be pretty cool. But I think the Packers select him. I think he's the best receiver on the board right now. And I think it's going to be a really big weapon for this Packers offense. With the 31st overall pick, it's really, we don't know the order. It's the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. And that's my prediction. So I just did the Niners at 31. But no matter what, these two picks are not going to affect each other. 31st pick, I have the 49ers selecting Xavier McKinney, safety from Alabama. I know Xavier McKinney is a really good player at Alabama. I watched him. And with the 49ers, but you really just don't have a safety. And you're missing one or two pieces on the O-line. And they're in the Super Bowl this year. And because you basically have everything that you need, besides safety and a few offensive line, and you just select your safety, and man, they're just going to be, I don't know. And with the 32nd overall pick, I have the Chiefs selecting C.J. Henderson, cornerback from Florida. I could see the Chiefs getting a running back. I actually did a mock draft, but I didn't upload it. I had them selecting Travis Etienne. Man, him in that offense would be crazy, but Etienne's going back to Clemson. So I have them selecting C.J. Henderson. The Chiefs, they need to upgrade their secondary a little bit with their cornerbacks wise, because their safeties, Tyrann Mathieu doing the job. But cornerback wise, you just need a little bit more depth. And I think C.J. Henderson is the best cornerback on the board, and I think he goes to the Chiefs. And there's the 4 teams who don't have a first-round pick. The Bears, they traded it to the Raiders in the Khalil Mack trade. Steelers, they traded it for Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Rams, they traded it to get Jalen Ramsey. And the Texans traded it to get Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills. So that is it, guys. That is my first 2020 NFL mock draft. In the comments section below, what picks do you don't agree with, what you agree with. In the comment section below, leave down a player who you think who is not getting recognized as much. In my personal opinion, it's Curtis Weaver as of the moment. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, and like always, have a good day. Peace out.